Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Bryn. I am transgender and non-binary, and I make videos about those topics. So today I wanted to talk about something that I think is brought up in the trans community, but I don't feel like it's really explained in depth or talked about in depth very much. Or at least I haven't seen it. Who knows? Maybe people do talk about it, but I just haven't seen it. But that topic is essentially feeling like you missed out on a big portion of your life. I've seen this because you weren't able to come out sooner, or you didn't know who you were sooner, or you felt restricted from coming out, or like whatever. You feel like you missed out on a big chunk of your life because you weren't able to be who you are. You know, one day you wake up and you realize like you wish you could have done more, or that you would have done more, or whatever, and you feel like everyone else is ahead of the game and you're just behind. There's the fact that a lot of trans people aren't able to live as their self, you know, until they're young adults. I mean, it obviously depends on the situation. There's people who can't or don't come out till they're, you know, older, like later in life, like 40s and 50s. There's people, you know, there are trans people who come out when they're, you know, 5 years old, but you have to have some of the most supportive parents ever to be able to experience that. And you also have to know who you are at 5 years old to be able to experience something like that. So a lot of people obviously don't come out until later in life, and it feels like you missed out. At least that's how I feel. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, I don't want this to be like a sad video, but like the things that I missed out on, I guess, to see if any of you relate. But I also want to talk about how to kind of make up for lost time, I guess. And obviously, there's nothing that can officially heal it or like bring back the time that you missed. But going forward, there are some things, at least for me, that I can do that I feel like help me, so maybe they would help you. So, if you have not seen my videos before, you may not know this, but I was assigned male at birth and raised as a boy, and I came out as a trans woman when I was 18, and I came out as non-binary when I was 21. Now, I've talked about this in a few other videos before, but obviously, I don't know for a fact, but there's a big chunk of me that feels like I was supposed to be assigned female at birth and raised as female, and then come out as non-binary. I don't feel connected to anything that has to do with being male, anything like that, whereas there are a lot of feminine aspects that I feel connected to and I feel like I missed out on. A little bit of background information about me as well is I have an older brother and a younger sister, and I was raised in a religious household, which I have a video on that. I will leave it up here and down in the description box, because being raised religious is like it's a whole thing. And with that religion and everything, my sister obviously got to do all these stereotypical little girl things, and I was not able to. There were things like I wasn't allowed to have sleepovers with my friends because my friends were all girls and I wasn't. My mother told my grandma to stop buying me Barbies because boys aren't supposed to play with those. My mother threw away all of my stuffed animals except for 2 of them, and I had an entire giant tub bin thing full of them. She threw them away when I was like 10 or 11 because boys shouldn't have stuffed animals at that age. But the things that I've noticed that I missed out the most on, or that I feel like I missed out the most on, would be interactions with other girls my age. Most people knew from a very young age that like I wasn't a stereotypical guy. Most people just thought I was a gay guy, and that's what I thought for a while too. Even like before I ever came out, like I would get called gay, like I just wasn't masculine at all, which not that that makes you gay, but obviously you know how society is, and they just like to slap that label on any guy who's not practicing toxic masculinity. But it still makes me sad. There's these societal norms that are accepted in a female-female friendship that are not accepted in a male-female friendship or a male-male friendship. things like playing with each other's hair, or braiding each other's hair, or like painting each other's nails, you know, even like holding hands when you're walking through the mall, or like, you know, cuddling, like all these things that to me feel very intimate, and not necessarily in a romantic way, but like I missed out on a lot of that, a lot of the physical affection that girls are allowed to experience with each other growing up. And I try not to think about it because it makes me really sad, and then it also makes me feel weird because like I'm like almost 25 and I'm like, why am I still sad about this from when I was so young, you know? But but still there's like this barrier. There's a barrier between me and the female friends that I have to be doing that stuff, because I always feel like if I were to ever make a move in any way, like not that this even has to be romantic, but it can be taken in a romantic way, I feel like if I ever initiate anything with a woman, that it could potentially come across as me being like creepy, basically, I guess. And you know, I think a lot of that is just internalized transphobia of like, you know, anyone who's assigned male at birth is really a man, and if they, you know, if they're trying to be in women's spaces or whatever, they're just trying to prey on women, and like that kind of shit rings in the back of my head anytime I want to do anything with a woman, whether it's friendship or romantic or anything like that. And like that kind of sucks. Like I don't like I don't like that it's there. But yeah, like those are the things that I feel like I missed, and then I have a hard time making up for it now. I remember though, this was maybe like 6 months ago, I don't really remember, but I went over to my friend's house, and she was with her girlfriend, and her girlfriend does her nails like me, like, you know, whatever, black nail polish, and she was like, oh, can you like paint my nails? I can't do it that well. And like, as simple as it was, like the feeling that I got during that was like, that's what I feel sad about when I remember that I didn't get to do that growing up. It's a really like sweet feeling. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it's very like personal, and like it feels almost vulnerable to me, even though like painting somebody's nails doesn't seem vulnerable, but like it feels that way to me. You know, if I'm doing it with like a friend or whatever, like it feels very, very personal. And maybe it's because like there's this part of me that almost feels embarrassed that I feel this way, or embarrassed that I need / want these things in order to make myself happy. Like it just, sometimes it feels to me like it should be like that's a childish thing to feel or something. But I also know logically that like there's nothing wrong with how I feel, and there's nothing wrong with how anybody feels. But normally I can feel something and then logically work through it, and then the feeling goes away, but I'm not quite sure how to work through this logically. But I will say one thing that I have been doing is I've been actively trying to see myself as myself around my female friends. A lot of times when I'm around my friends who are women, like I feel much more comfortable interacting with them as essentially like a butch lesbian or whatever. I feel like that feels more like me and all that stuff, but I still instinctively feel as though I'm interacting with them as a gay man, as I would have when I was in high school. And especially if they're my friends who knew me back in high school, I have a really hard time separating who I am now from the people who knew me then. But I have been trying to do things that I normally feel worried to do. Things like playing with my friend's hair, or like I don't know, like holding their hand, or like, I don't know, like little affectionate things like that that normally would like terrify me because I'd be worried that they'd think I'm just some creepy guy trying to make a move, which I'm not. Not creepy, I'm not a guy, and I'm not trying to make a move, so I always worry about that. But I've been, you know, everyone who is in my life, with the exception of like a few family members maybe, sees me for who I am now and loves me for who I am now. And I don't logically think that they would have a problem with any of these things. And so I am making an active effort to see myself around them the way that they see me. Which is really hard to do, but it feels really good when I can switch that switch in my brain that's like, you'll never be who you are, to you are who you are, and they see you this way. Like, it's a giant sigh of relief almost, but like also a little bit better than just relief. It's something that I have to work on in my mind. Everything's always a process. But yeah, there's like these little moments with my friends who are women that I remember, and they're always things that I never got to experience with other girls my age when I was a kid. And so I'm trying to kind of like fix that now. Because I think that's something that I'm lacking, and I think that that's something that it's important. I think like anything that you're lacking from your childhood, if you can figure out how to give it to yourself like, that's good. Then you don't have to rely on somebody else to give it to you. So this is like, I mean, I guess this is still with other people, but this is me trying to, I don't know, this is me taking what feels like, it feels like me taking a risk, like a big risk, because I think like the most damaging thing I could hear is if like any of my friends, specifically my female friends, were to be like, you're just a guy, which I don't foresee any of them saying that, but still, it's like that rings in my head, and it's just, it's hard for me to move past it. If you are working on moving past this, or you watch this video and you're like, oh my God, that's me, or like whatever, you know, I don't want to tell anybody how to live, but if this is something that you would like to try on your own, or something that you're realizing might be beneficial for you as well, I would just like to say, you can do it. You can do it. Like, I promise you can do it. And I promise you, you're not weird or embarrassing. You know, all the things that I feel, everything that I feel, you shouldn't feel. But I'm not going to tell you how you should feel. But I do want to say, like, even when you feel that way, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is true. It doesn't mean that you're, you know, that it's like, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the fact that you're lacking something from your childhood. It just means that you missed something, and that's okay. I just want to like put that out there. I don't know. I tend to be very critical of myself, and I'm sure there's other people out there that are very critical of themselves, and you know, every little step is a step in the right direction. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. So I'm really glad I figured out how to say all this. I've been trying to say this for a while, and like, it just like wasn't working. So thank you. If you stayed till the end, like, thank you. Let me know if you made it all the way to the end in the comments. But yeah, that's the whole thing. I hope you all have a lovely day, and thanks for watching.